in terms of some other sort of real useful, maybe finicky things that you can use to age birds, and in particular pale species like, the Icelands, the glaucus and glaucus winged, this becomes a little bit more useful, because if you look at this bird on the left, this is a first cycle. The bird on the right is a second, and the second cycle has a bit of gray on the back, and if you could see the rump, it would look whiter. But because paler winged birds have sort of less melanin in them, some of the differences as they age aren't as obvious as in birds that have black wings and more contrasting secondaries and so forth. And one of the cool things about juveniles and that special nature of that plumage is that the feather shapes are different in juveniles. And this applies to hawks, it applies to sparrows, it applies to gulls. But because you can actually see gulls up close and in the scope, you can see these differences. It's pretty subtle. But if you look at this juvenile feather, it's more pointy and it looks like it curls up. The points sort of curl up a bit and they're pointy, while any older age feather is rounded and broad. So second cycle and above, broad rounded feathers. First cycle, the juvenile primaries are pointy and they look like they up curl. And that can be, if you're sort of really into this aging thing and trying to separate things, and the reason why you might want to do this is because maybe a bird looks a little weird, and it all could be explained if that bird is older than you think, right? Then if you say, aha, those primaries are second cycle, it is older than I thought, this solves my issue. This bird isn't weird, I just thought it looked odd because I thought it was a youngster, a first cycle, and in fact it's a second. That's where this kind of stuff becomes useful. And you can see it here in this first cycle California gull. You see those pointy primaries, and they kind of almost look like they curl up a bit. They're not as symmetrical as the broad, more rounded tipped of older ages. This is super detailed stuff, but it can be useful, and usually nobody tells you about it. So I figured I would